What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about Kirby and the possibility of Scream 7. I want to talk about it, see if it makes sense to bring Kirby in, kind of just see where the conversation takes us. Definitely let me know in the comments what you guys think. You know, I'm recording this a little bit earlier than when you're seeing it. We're having the whole Melissa back and forth, kind of rumor thing. And there was a few weeks ago the talk on Kirby, and I think it maybe was even a convention back in like April or May where she talked about that she would be down to return and, give them a call for her and all that jazz that she said at a convention that they did back then. So, is it possible? Well, let's take it from that angle first. Like, would she return? And it is a question I think you kind of have to ask yourself with any of these people, right? Would they come back? I think the answer is yes. I think, you can go into the Melissa and Jenna stuff all day long. I think at the end of the day, at least some of them don't seem to have a problem, like a Mason Gooding doing another Spyglass like type related project, right? I don't think it impacts them as much as some people might think. Maybe some make a hard stand. Maybe a Melissa or a Jenna would never work with Spyglass, say again, or Paramount, but other of them would. And, again, you do have to kind of take it person by person. But I think, Hayden already saying that at an event, I think that, you could check that part off, right? Like, would she come back? Would she want to come back? I think the answer is yes. I think her character makes sense to return. I'll tell you in terms of my prediction, right? Will she come back? I'm actually going to say no. I'll actually predict right now earlier in the video that the answer will be no. It's just, I feel like it's kind of the way that we've heard the discussions about Scream 7. Like when Nev says there's some oldies coming back, like, that could mean her. And again, like her being alive obviously qualifies her where many people are not in that same camp. So obviously, they wouldn't fit that picture. But when I hear her say that, and you hear all the rumors with like the Courtney Cox and Gail, and then Patrick Dempsey, right, and Mark Kincaid, those are the ones I think she's talking about. And I would not be shocked whatsoever if the next Scream movie, Scream 7, was Nev, Courtney, and Patrick Dempsey. It was those three. Those were the originals, are the legacy characters that are coming back. I think the Meeks twins are probably completely out. Obviously not Jenna or Melissa. And then Kirby, yeah, like she's a possibility, but I ultimately think the answer will be no. Do I like that? No, actually, I would prefer the opposite. I think actually me and Craven Something Scary talked a little bit about Kirby earlier on in the year, and maybe we said the same thing. Maybe we've changed it up since then, but I like her. I mean, I don't like necessarily what they did with her angle in Scream 6. I mean, we've talked about that 1,000 times, right? Where just making her even the possibility of being a killer, I thought was a very stupid idea. People can change, and people that go, and it's not like I've ever been stabbed and never been in that kind of situation. I know people can change, right? And that does happen. And yeah, maybe when you're in that kind of situation, you fast forward 10 or so years. Yeah, actually, it might actually have been more than that in terms of like the timeline. Yeah, could she have developed like a serial killer instinct? I suppose it's possible. And so, is there anything like violently wrong with what they did? No, but I do think it was kind of a stupid idea. She worked in the ending, and that's the other thing, right? Where it's like I don't like the fact that they try to almost frame her, or literally frame, like like picturing frame. I don't like that they did that, but I actually really, really like a lot of what they actually did with Kirby in 6. I know there's been the debate of like, did she act like Kirby? That one I would give them more of like a break on, where again, it's been a decade plus. Kirby would have changed as a person. Hayden has changed as a person, as we've known, right? And she's gone through stuff. So it's like, I think she kept a little bit of what makes Kirby Kirby, and I also think she just did a really good job. Like, overall, the acting was good. The role was good. Her conversation with Tara was good. Even the conversation with Mindy, which was the little bit of, like, Kirby knowledge, right? But I think they used her rather well consistently in Scream 6. I'm always going to stand on that. I don't think that's a popular opinion, but I will stand on that one. So, in terms of that, I mean, you bring her back, I think it's a good fit. And I think, having her with Nev, or having, let's I guess go with like Kirby with Sydney, they weren't as interlinked or intertwined, right? They're not as much as like maybe we would think they are, right? Like you go back and you watch Scream 4, and I mean, there's a couple things, and Kirby gets a lot of phone calls. She gets some advice from Sydney of like how to handle phone calls and whatnot. But they're not together too much. At this point, I would say she actually, weirdly enough, has maybe bigger or better connection to Gale than she would actually to Sydney. So, you know, I get it, but I also think what they did with her in terms of being like an officer, right? And the ending of Scream 6, like her words to Sam, right? Where it's like kind of call me anytime, like we're all linked, this survivor type mentality, right? I think no matter what happens, even if she's not in Scream 7, that was a very smart thing, I think, to have her say. Like that was just a smart line that the writers, you know, came up with, where it's like, because it's true, you know, they are literally linked in terms of being survivors, and there's always going to kind of be something special about them. And the way they wrote it and the way that she acted and all that stuff, it really puts her on like the reserve list, you know what I mean? Where she's kind of always there. She can come in whenever they feel like it. Now, you could say in terms of the lore, she can come in whenever like the new survivors need her to. And then from like the production standpoint, she's there again, like kind of waiting and call, right? You can bring her in if you feel like it. If you don't want to, you can kind of keep her on the sidelines. So I don't think, you know, is it the worst thing of all time if she doesn't return for 7? Ultimately, no. Like the main focus would again be, as we've talked about, right? Like a Sydney Gale thing, and you know whoever else they might throw in to kind of flare that up. Kirby would always be at this point more of a supporting thing, and I think that's okay. You know, we even talked about potential like TV show things. Remember when there was like that idea where, or maybe it was a rumor, right, where Scream might be looking to do more like offshoots, you know, like TV show type things. Like that would actually be kind of cool, like the Adventures of Kirby Reed. I don't know if it would like sell. I don't know if people would really care in terms of viewership, but I would care. I would watch it, and I think that would actually be kind of a cool idea, using again like an offshoot type character and having them do their own thing. But again, I think because of where she's at as a character, she's in a good spot where you could kind of bring her in if you want to. If you don't want to, you can leave her. And ultimately, if this thing is being planned as a trilogy, who's to say, you know, dipping your feet in with 7, let's get Nev back, right? Let's like figure out if this even still works anymore, because it might not. It might not. To give everybody kind of credit, right? We'll see how it does. And then if you were to do a trilogy, maybe you could bring back Kirby for like a Scream 8 or Scream 9. So my prediction is no. I do think it would work. I think, you know, if you did it, it would be more of a support thing. And again, at this point, she's got more of like a tie to Gale. But you know what? She's like an extra hand. Like I almost feel like, I wonder if they're going to have to almost write her out in the same way they wrote Sydney out, right, for 6. I wonder if you'll have to do that with Kirby going forward, because it's like, it depends on how many people, depends on what they think the average viewer thinks of Kirby, right? If they think people just aren't going to remember or aren't going to care, then they might not even write that into the script. But she's a helping hand, and she's like a trained hand, right? Like she could handle herself, she can shoot, she can do all this stuff. She'd be really good that if you're getting attacked by a ghost face, to bring her in to help you, just like with your core and the end of the movie, like she would be pretty good to have. And from a lore perspective, I almost feel like you'd have to write her out and explain it. You can't just like not have her, because it's like, well, why wouldn't Gale call her? Like she's just an extra helping hand. So I wonder how they're going to do, you know, that situation just in general. But you let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.